Millionaire visits his daughter after 8 years and sees her getting evicted. Richard Thompson took a deep breath as he drove his black Lexus down the dirt road, trying to control the nervousness that gripped his chest. 8 long years had passed since he last saw his only daughter, Jennifer. That's when he saw the scene that made his world stop. There she was, sitting on the steps of a simple wooden house, her face in her hands, crying. A man in a dark suit was pointing his finger at her threateningly, shouting something Richard couldn't hear from inside the car. "No more excuses. 3 months of overdue rent," yelled Walter Jenkins, the homeowner. "You have until the end of the day to get out." Jennifer lifted her tear-streaked face. At 26, she looked much older. Her long brown hair, which once shone, was now dull, and her skin showed the marks of someone who works too much and sleeps too little. "Please, Mr. Jenkins, just 1 more week. I got a new job at the downtown bakery. I start on Monday," she pleaded, clasping her hands together. "1 week? You said the same thing last month." Walter threw a black bag out the window. "Your things are in there. I want you out by 6 this evening." Richard parked the car behind a tree, his heart pounding in his chest. The daughter who was once his princess was there, humiliated, begging for a roof over her head. Memories of their last argument came back like a punch to the gut. "Dad, I love Brian. We're getting married. That bum only wants your money. You're not going to ruin your life." "Then I'm leaving. I never want to see you again." Those were the last words they exchanged. Richard had tried to look for her in the first few months, but wounded pride and the certainty that she would return kept him from insisting. Now he saw he was completely wrong. Ms. Grace, the 70-year-old neighbor, came out of her house and approached Jennifer with a glass of water. "Here, dear, drink this. And don't worry, God always makes a way for good hearts," the lady said, stroking the young woman's hair gently. "Thank you, Ms. Grace. You've always been so kind to me." Jennifer drank the water slowly. "I don't know what I'm going to do. I've looked for a place everywhere, but with no money for a down payment." "You work 3 jobs, my dear. That's no way to live." Richard hid better behind the wooden fence when he noticed Jennifer looking in the direction of his car. 3 jobs. How had she come to this? "Mommy!" A small, high-pitched voice cut through the air. A boy of about 6 came running down the dirt road, a school backpack on his back, and his blonde hair messy. Richard felt his legs go weak. It was his grandson. A grandson he had never met. "Hi, my love. How was school?" Jennifer opened her arms, and the boy threw himself into them. "It was fun. Miss Kathleen said, I'm really smart at drawing. Look what I made." The boy showed a crumpled paper with a drawing of a colorful house. "That's beautiful, Mikey. You're the most talented artist I know." Michael. The boy's name was Michael. Richard remembered how Jennifer always said that if she had a son, she would name him that in honor of the paternal grandfather she adored. "Mommy, why were you crying?" Michael touched his mother's face with his little hand. "It's nothing, my prince. I'm just a little tired." "Did the man in the suit leave?" He looked mad. "Yes, he left. Let's go inside and have a snack." "But Mommy, there's a bag out here with our clothes." Jennifer closed her eyes, trying to find the strength to explain another move to her son. "We're going on a trip, Michael. Remember how you always wanted to see different places?" "A trip? Where to?" "I don't know yet. But it will be an adventure." Richard saw his daughter's brave lie to protect her son and felt his chest tighten. She had always been like this, even as a child, trying to shield others from pain. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. This really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The sun was beginning to set when Jennifer put Michael to sleep in a cheap boarding house on the outskirts of town. The small room smelled of mold, but it was all she could afford for one night. The boy fell asleep quickly, exhausted from his day at school. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Jennifer pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. It was the electric bill that had arrived that morning, another debt she didn't know how to pay. Her 3 jobs barely covered the rent for the house she had now lost. From 5 in the morning until 9, she cleaned offices downtown. From 10 until 2 in the afternoon, she worked as a clerk in a clothing store. And from 3 in the afternoon until 8 at night, she looked after a neighbor's daughter while she worked. She came home exhausted, helped Michael with his homework, and still tried to sew a few pieces to sell on the weekend. Richard had followed the car to the boarding house and was now parked across the street, watching the lit window of the room where his family, because now he understood they were his family, was trying to get back on its feet. His phone rang. It was Mark, his partner and best friend of over 20 years. "Richard, did you find her?" "I did, Mark, but it's not how I imagined." "What do you mean?" She's going through a hard time. A really hard time." "And what are you going to do?" Richard looked at the window again. Jennifer had appeared for a moment, closing the torn curtain. "I don't know yet. She hates me, Mark. After what I said that day." "That was 8 years ago, Richard. People change. Pain heals. And what if she doesn't want to see me? And what if she does? You'll only find out if you try." Richard hung up the phone and stayed there until he saw the light go out. Even in the dark, he couldn't leave. It was as if an invisible force kept him tied to that place. The next morning, Jennifer left the boarding house early, taking Michael to school. Richard followed them from a distance, watching how she held the boy's hand tightly as they walked down the busy street. Michael chattered about something he had learned in class, and Jennifer smiled, forcing cheerfulness even with eyes swollen from crying all night. At the school entrance, she bent down to adjust her son's backpack. "Michael, when class is over, wait for me right here, okay? Don't go with anyone." "Okay, Mommy. Are you working at the store today?" "Yes, I am. But afterward, we'll go look for our new house, remember? I want a house with a yard to plant flowers like Grandma Mary used to plant." Jennifer felt a pang in her heart. Her mother had passed 3 years ago, and Michael still talked about her as if she were present. "We'll try to find one like that, my love." Richard watched from inside the car as she kissed the boy's forehead and said goodbye. Grandma Mary? His wife had left this world and he hadn't even known. A deep sorrow took hold of him as he realized how many important things he had lost because of his own pride. Jennifer headed for the bus stop. Richard knew she was going to her first job, cleaning offices. He made a decision and drove to the commercial building where she worked. From the parking lot, he saw his daughter entering through the back door, along with other women arriving for the morning shift. She wore a simple uniform and carried a bag with cleaning supplies. Richard entered the building through the main door and went up to the office of the accounting firm where he knew she worked. Pretending to be a potential client, he asked for information about their services. "Good morning. I'd like to learn more about the company." "I need an accountant for my company," he lied to the receptionist. "Of course, Mr. George can see you in a few minutes. Would you like some coffee?" Richard accepted and sat in the waiting room. A few minutes later, he saw Jennifer walking down the hall with a cleaning cart, emptying the trash cans. She was focused on her work and didn't notice his presence. "Hey, Jennifer, can you give the conference room a quick clean? An important client is coming," shouted a man about 40 years old, clearly one of the managers. "Of course, Mr. George. I'll finish up here and head right there," she replied, quickening her pace. Richard saw how she lowered her head and sped up her movements. That wasn't the brave and determined daughter he had raised. Life had broken her in some way. The manager approached Richard. "Sorry for the wait. I'm George Williams. I heard you need our services." "Yes, I have a medium-sized company and need to reorganize the accounting." During the business conversation, Richard couldn't stop thinking about Jennifer. When the meeting ended, she had already finished her shift and left. Richard drove to the store where she worked in the afternoon. It was a small women's clothing store in a popular shopping center. Through the window, he could see her organizing items on the racks, helping customers, and operating the cash register. "Excuse me," he said to the store owner, a middle-aged woman. "I'm looking for a gift for my niece, a young woman in her early 20s. "Jennifer can help you," shouted the owner. "Jen, come here." Richard felt his heart race as Jennifer approached. Up close, he could better see the signs of the daily struggle she faced. She had lost a lot of weight, and small worry lines marked her young face. "Good afternoon. How can I help you?" she asked, not recognizing him. Richard had grown a beard and was thinner. The years had left their mark on him too. "I'm looking for something special, for a very important person." What kind of clothes does she like? Formal? Casual? She always liked floral dresses, colorful ones. She is a cheerful person. Jennifer smiled for the first time since he had seen her. I have some lovely options here. What size? Medium, I think. She showed him several dresses, explaining possible combinations. Richard noticed how good she was at her job, patient and attentive with customers. Even amid difficulties, she maintained the politeness and kindness he had taught her. This one would look beautiful on her, said Jennifer, holding up a blue dress with small white flowers. It has a very elegant cut. It's perfect, I'll take it. As she wrapped the gift, Richard asked, have you worked here long? 2 years. Ms. Rebecca gave me a chance when I needed it most. And do you like it? It's honest work. I can't complain. But Richard sensed the sadness behind her diplomatic reply. Leaving the store, he handed the gift to the first woman he saw on the street, saying it was an early birthday present. The woman was confused, but grateful. Richard returned home, an empty mansion in a gated community in the city's West End. Everything there was luxurious and cold. He went up to the office and opened the drawer where he kept the only photos he had of Jennifer. The smiling girl in the photographs was completely different from the tired woman he had seen that day. His phone rang. It was Mark again. So, how did it go? She didn't recognize me, Mark. That could be an opportunity. You can approach slowly, get to know her situation. She's suffering a lot. She works 3 jobs and still can barely make ends meet. And the grandson. A beautiful boy, smart. Looks like her when she was a child. Richard, you can't just watch from the sidelines. If she's in need. I know. But how? If I show up out of nowhere offering help, she'll get suspicious. You know how she is. Then be creative. Find a way. Richard hung up and stayed up thinking late into the night. How could he approach her without raising suspicion? How could he help without hurting his daughter's pride? The next day he went back to the neighborhood where Jennifer lived. He discreetly spoke with Miss Grace, the elderly neighbor who he had seen comforting his daughter. Jennifer is such a sweetheart, said Miss Grace, serving coffee in her simple kitchen. She works like an ant, takes care of her boy like a lioness, but life hasn't been easy for her. What happened with her husband? Oh, that good-for-nothing, excuse my language, but that's what he is. He ran off with some woman when Michael was little. Left Jennifer with a pile of debt and the boy to raise all by herself. And she never got any help from her family? Miss Grace made a face. What family? Her parents vanished off the face of the earth. Her father is some rich businessman, but he never showed up around here. Jennifer doesn't talk much about him, but you can tell he hurt her real bad. Richard felt a stab in his chest. Was that what people thought of him? A man who abandoned his own daughter? She's strong, you know, Miss Grace continued, but sometimes I hear her crying at night when she thinks the boy is asleep. Michael means everything to her. And now that she lost her home, I don't know, I'm scared of what might happen to them. Richard said goodbye to the lady and went back to his car, more determined than ever. He had to help, but in a way Jennifer would accept. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. That afternoon, Richard went back to the shopping center and went into a cell phone store near the clothing shop. From there, he could watch Jennifer working. She was helping an elderly customer with great patience, showing her different options and giving advice about what goes together. You have excellent taste, Jennifer told the customer. This color really brings out your eyes. The customer smiled, clearly pleased with the service. Richard felt proud of his daughter, even amid the pain of seeing her in that situation. When things slowed down in the shop, Richard saw Jennifer sit down for a few minutes, taking off shoes that were clearly hurting her. She discreetly massaged her feet, then looked at the clock on the wall. She still had 2 hours of work ahead. Rebecca, the shop owner, came over to her. Jen, are you okay? You look more tired today. I'm fine, Ms. Rebecca. I just had to move yesterday and it was a bit rushed. You moved? Why? Jennifer hesitated before answering. The rent got too high. I found a more affordable place. Richard realized she hadn't told the truth about the eviction. If you need help with anything, you know you can count on me, right? Rebecca said, with genuine kindness. "Thank you. You've always been so good to me." Richard left the cell phone store and walked down the street, thinking about how to handle the situation. He needed a plan that wouldn't raise suspicion. He went to Michael's school and watched from a distance when school let out. The boy came running out looking for Jennifer. She arrived a few minutes later, out of breath, coming straight from work. "Sorry, sweetheart. The bus was late," she said, hugging her son. "It's okay, Mommy. I played with my friends out front. Let's go home. Let's go to the place we're staying tonight. Mommy, don't we have a home anymore?" Jennifer knelt down to her son's level, holding his little hands. "Look at me, Michael. Mommy will fix everything, okay? We just need a little time to find an even better home. But what about my things, my toys? They're stored in a safe place. You'll have them back soon." Richard saw how she hid her own pain to comfort her son. He remembered how she did the same thing as a child after her mother left, always trying to be strong for others. That night, he couldn't sleep. The image of Jennifer crying alone while Michael slept wouldn't leave his mind. At 5 in the morning, he made a decision. He drove to the building where she cleaned the offices and waited in the reception area. When she appeared in her cleaning uniform and with her supplies, Richard pretended to be waiting for a business meeting. "Excuse me," he said, approaching. "Do you work here?" "Yes, sir. Is there a problem?" No, it's just that I dropped an expensive pen last night in the accounting office, a gold pen that belonged to my father. Could you check if you found it?" Jennifer accompanied him to the accounting floor. Richard observed how well she knew the place, greeting the night watchman and showing familiarity with the environment. "Which desk?" she asked, turning on the lights. "This one here." Richard pointed to a random desk. Jennifer searched carefully, moving papers and objects. Richard pretended to help, but was actually planting some dollar bills behind a plant. "I didn't find it, sir. Are you sure it was here?" "Maybe it fell somewhere else, don't worry." When she returned to work, Richard left an envelope with money on the reception desk, asking the watchman to give it to the cleaning lady who helped him look for a pen. Jennifer found the envelope 2 hours later. Inside were $500 and a note. "Thank you for your help. A small reward for your kindness." She was confused but carefully put the money away. It was exactly what she needed to pay for a week at the boarding house. Richard started appearing at the places where she worked, always with different excuses. At the clothing store, he returned to exchange a gift he had bought. At the place where she took care of children, he pretended to be looking for a babysitter for a friend. Gradually, Jennifer began to notice the well-dressed man who appeared quite frequently. He was polite and always left a generous tip, but there was something familiar about him that she couldn't place. Michael also began to notice the man. "Mommy, that man in the suit is always around. Do you know him?" "No, sweetheart. It must be a coincidence." But Jennifer was starting to suspect they weren't coincidences. A week after the eviction, Richard decided it was time to act more directly. He sought out Walter Jenkins, the owner of the house. "Mr. Jenkins, I'm Richard Thompson from Thompson Enterprises." Walter's eyes widened. He knew the businessman's reputation. "Mr. Thompson, what an honor. How can I help you?" "I heard you have a house for rent. I'm looking for a property for one of my employees." "I do. A great house. It just needs a few repairs." "Is that the one where the young lady with a child was living?" "That's the one. I had to remove them from there. 3 months without paying. I can't work at a loss." Richard tried to control the anger he felt toward the man. "I understand. How much did they owe?" $2,400. "And how much do you want for the rent?" "For you, I'll do $800. I accept, but I have one condition. I want you to offer the house back to the former tenant for the same price she was paying before." Walter was confused. "But they don't have any money." "Let's just say a social investor has appeared, someone who wants to help families in need. The investor would pay the rent in advance." Richard took an envelope from his pocket. "Here is money to settle her debt and 6 months' rent in advance. You offer the house back and say a social program covered the costs." Walter counted the money with gleaming eyes. "And can I make some improvements to the house with this extra money you're giving me?" "You can and should. I want it to be a decent place." That same afternoon, Walter called Jennifer at the boarding house. "Jennifer, it's Mr. Jenkins. Look, an opportunity came up here. A social program paid off your debt and covered 6 months in advance. You can come back to the house." Jennifer nearly dropped the phone. "What do you mean, Mr. Jenkins? What social program?" "I don't know the details. I just know the money showed up, and your house is free. Do you want to come back?" "Of course, but this isn't some kind of mistake, is it?" "No, it's not. It's all settled already." Jennifer hung up the phone with tears in her eyes. Michael ran over to her. "What's wrong, Mommy? Why are you crying?" "From joy, my son. We can go back to our house." "Really? We're going back home?" "Yes, we are." Michael jumped for joy, and Jennifer picked him up, spinning around the small room of the boarding house. For the first time in weeks, there was hope in her eyes. Richard watched from a distance when they returned to the house that night. He had already hired a crew to do small repairs, leaks fixed, walls painted, some improvements to the electrical wiring. "Mommy, the house is different," exclaimed Michael, running through the rooms. "It's true. Everything looks nicer." Jennifer touched the freshly painted walls with admiration. That night she put Michael to bed in his own bed again and stayed there, watching him sleep. So much had changed in just a few days. First the eviction, now the return with the house improved. There was something strange about it all, but she decided not to question the gift life had given her. In the early morning, Richard drove by the house. It was dark and silent. His daughter and grandson were safe, at least for now. It was a start. In the following days, Richard continued his plan of anonymous help. He found out Michael needed new school supplies and left a backpack with everything the boy needed at the school's front desk, saying it was a donation from a former student. He also learned that Jennifer was being exploited in her caregiver job. The lady of the house paid less than half the market rate. Richard made an anonymous call to the woman, pretending to be from a domestic employment agency. "Miss Patricia, I heard you have a caregiver. I'm offering the services of a very qualified professional. I can charge the correct rate for the work, $40 an hour." $40? But I only pay $15 for Jennifer. $15, ma'am, that's exploitation. The market rate is $40. If you can't pay that, I can refer Jennifer to someone else who will pay a fair wage. No, Jennifer is great. I'll pay the $40. When Jennifer arrived for work the next day, Patricia gave her the news. "Jen, I'm going to increase your pay. From now on, it's $40 an hour." Jennifer almost fainted. "What do you mean, Miss Patricia?" "It's just that I found out the amount I was paying was way too low. You deserve to get the right pay for the excellent work you do." "Are you sure, Mum?" "Yes, I am. And I want to pay overtime too for when you stay late." Jennifer left work that day with more money than she had made in an entire month. She ran to the school to pick up Michael, eager to share the good news. "Michael, something amazing happened." "What is it, Mommy?" "Ms. Patricia raised my salary. Now we'll be able to buy new clothes for you and maybe even ice cream sometimes." Michael shouted with joy and threw himself into his mother's arms. Richard, watching from afar, smiled for the first time in weeks. But Jennifer's happiness was short-lived. The next day she arrived at the clothing store and found Rebecca looking worried. "Jen, I need to talk to you." "Did something happen, Miss Rebecca?" "Business is very slow. I just can't keep all the employees. I'm going to have to let you go." Jennifer's world came crashing down again. Even with the raise from her caregiver job, she still needed the store's salary to make ends meet. "Please, Ms. Rebecca, I'll take a pay cut. Anything." "It's not about the salary, dear. There just isn't enough business." Jennifer left the store with teary eyes. How was she going to tell Michael that things were hard again? Richard saw what happened from the cell phone store, and his heart sank. He quickly left and went to his downtown office. "Mark, I need your help." "Of course. What do you need?" "You need to hire a salesperson for Rebecca's store. No, wait, even better. You need to buy clothes, lots of clothes." "Richard, I don't wear women's clothing. Not for you, it's for the company employees, new uniforms." Mark laughed. "Richard, our employees wear business attire. They don't need uniforms." Then for your wife to gift friends for anything, just go there and buy a bunch of clothes. Mark shook his head, but agreed. He'd known his friend long enough to know when not to ask questions. The next day, Mark showed up at Rebecca's store. "Good morning, I need to buy clothes to gift some women in my family." Jennifer helped him professionally, even though she was worried about the coming dismissal. "How many people would you like to gift?" "About 10, maybe more." "What kind of clothes?" "Various dresses, blouses, skirts, for different ages." For 2 hours, Mark bought practically half the store's inventory. Rebecca was overjoyed. "Jen, forget what we talked about yesterday," she said after Mark left. "With this sale, I can keep all of you and even give a raise." Jennifer was confused but relieved. What a strange coincidence. The following week, other customers showed up at the store, always buying large quantities of clothes. Jennifer began to suspect something strange was going on, but she couldn't imagine what. At home, she mentioned to Michael, "Son, don't you think it's strange so many good things are happening at once?" "What do you mean, Mom?" "We get to come home, my salary increases, the store is full of customers. Maybe we have a guardian angel," Michael said innocently. "A guardian angel?" "Yeah. At school, Miss Kathleen said that sometimes special people look after us without us even knowing." Jennifer smiled, but the feeling that someone was behind it all wouldn't leave her. Richard started getting bolder. He found out Michael loved books and started leaving comic books and children's stories in the school library, always with a card. "Anonymous donation for the children." Michael came home excited about the new books the library was getting. "Mom, someone is donating really cool books to the school. Today I got a story about pirates." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. You like to read, don't you?" "I do. Remember how Grandpa Peter used to read stories to you when you were little?" Jennifer stopped what she was doing. Michael spoke of his grandfather as if he knew him, even though he'd never seen him. "How do you know that, Michael?" "You tell me sometimes when you're sad. You say Grandpa Peter told the most beautiful stories in the world. And do I also tell you that he's gone?" Michael nodded. "But sometimes I think he didn't really leave. I think he's watching over us from far away." Jennifer felt a shiver. Her son's words made her think. Was it possible her father was still alive? All these years she had assumed he was gone because he never tried to get in touch. But what if there was another explanation? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, Richard decided to get even closer. He started going to the bakery near Jennifer's house, always at the time when she took Michael to school. He pretended to read the newspaper while drinking coffee, watching the interactions between mother and son. "Good morning, Mr. Anthony," Michael greeted the bakery owner. "Good morning, champ. The usual French bread for your mother?" "Yes, and if you have any spoiled cream puffs, could you give them to me?" Anthony always pretended to have a cream puff that he couldn't sell and gave it to the boy. Richard realized it was the baker's strategy to feed Michael without hurting Jennifer's pride. "Son, you can't ask like that," she said, embarrassed, "but Mr. Anthony offered." "Leave the boy alone, Jen. Children need to eat." Richard approached the counter. "Excuse me, I couldn't help but notice your son's manners," he said to Jennifer. "How old is he?" 6 years old, she replied, a bit suspicious. "Congratulations on the upbringing you've given him. It's not common to see such well-behaved children these days." "Thank you. Do you live in this neighborhood?" "Yes, I do. I've been coming here for a few weeks. I love this bakery. Mr. Anthony makes the best coffee in the area." Anthony smiled proudly. "This gentleman has good taste. He comes here every morning and always praises my pastries." Michael tugged on his mother's blouse. "Mommy, he looks like the grandpa in my drawing." Jennifer looked at Richard more closely and felt something strange. There was something in those eyes that bothered her, as if it awakened a distant memory. "Which grandpa, Michael?" "The grandpa I sometimes draw. The one Mommy says took care of her when she was little." Richard almost choked on his coffee. Jennifer stared at him with growing suspicion. "Sorry for being curious," she said. "But you're not from around here, are you?" "No, I work downtown, but I like to have coffee here in the morning before going to the office." "And what company do you work for?" Richard hesitated for a second. Construction. Nothing too important. Jennifer didn't seem convinced, but didn't press further. She took Michael's hand and politely said goodbye. "Come on, son. School is waiting for you." "Bye, mister." Michael waved to Richard with an innocent smile. Richard stayed in the bakery a few more minutes, talking with Anthony. "Beautiful family, huh?" commented the baker. "Very. The mother seems like a hard-working person." "Oh, Jennifer is a fighter. She works 3 jobs to raise the boy alone. The father disappeared years ago. And her family. The child's grandparents. From what I understand, she had a falling out with her father a long time ago. I don't think he even knows he has a grandson." "How sad." "Yeah, but she's strong. She'll make it in life." Richard left the bakery even more determined to keep helping, but also more worried. Jennifer was becoming suspicious of his presence. That afternoon, he changed his strategy. Instead of showing up in person, he began organizing more subtle help. He hired a company to conduct a satisfaction survey at the clothing store, offering prizes to the saleswomen with the highest customer ratings. Jennifer won first place and received a basket of beauty products and clothes. Rebecca was proud of her employee. "I always knew you had a talent for sales, Jen." "Thank you, Ms. Rebecca, but it was luck." "No luck at all. You're good at what you do." Richard also organized a book donation campaign at Michael's school, contributing hundreds of new volumes to the library. The boy came home thrilled. "Mommy, the school got a bunch of new books. The library lady said it was the biggest donation she's ever seen." "How wonderful, my love. And there are books about everything. Dinosaurs, adventures, fairy tales." "Have you picked any to bring home?" "I picked 3. Can I read one to you tonight?" "Of course you can." Richard also found out where Jennifer shopped and convinced the owner of the little market to run a special promotion on the items she bought most. When she arrived to do her weekly shopping, she found much lower prices. "Mr. John, are you sure these prices are right?" she asked the market owner. "Yes, my dear. It's a special promotion I'm running. But all the products I need are on sale at the same time." Mr. John scratched his head, not knowing how to explain. "Well, sometimes things just coincide, right?" Jennifer paid for her groceries, but her suspicion only grew. So many coincidences weren't normal. At home, she decided to investigate. She started writing down all the strange things that had happened: the return to the house, the salary increases, the market promotions, the books at Michael's school. "Michael, come here," she called one night after dinner. "What is it, Mom?" "Have you noticed that a lot of good things have been happening lately?" Michael thought for a moment. "Yes, I have. It's like someone is taking care of us." "And you don't think that's strange?" "No, I think it's Grandpa Peter." Jennifer felt a shiver down her spine. "Michael, Grandpa Peter isn't here anymore." "Are you sure, Mom?" The question echoed in Jennifer's mind. Was she really sure? She had assumed her father was gone because he never contacted her after the fight. But what if she was wrong? The next morning, she decided to do some investigating. She called her father's company, pretending to be an old acquaintance. "Hello, Thompson Enterprises. Good morning, I'd like to speak with Mr. Richard Thompson." "Mr. Thompson is in a meeting. Would you like to leave a message?" Jennifer's heart raced. He was still alive, still working at the same company. No need. Thank you." She hung up the phone with trembling hands. Why had he never contacted her if he was alive and working in the same city? That afternoon, instead of going straight home after Michael's school, she took a bus downtown. She wanted to see her father's company from afar, maybe understand something. The commercial building was imposing, made of glass and steel. Jennifer remembered going there as a child, but now it seemed even bigger and more intimidating. She stood in the plaza in front, watching people come and go. Michael played on the playground while she watched the building's entrance. "Mom, why did we come here?" asked Michael, stopping his play. "I'm looking for someone." "Who?" Jennifer hesitated. "Someone I knew a long time ago." "Is it Grandpa Peter?" "How do you know that?" "I don't know, I just do." At 6 in the evening, Richard came out of the building with Mark. Jennifer saw him from a distance and her heart stopped. He was older, with graying hair and some wrinkles, but it was definitely her father. Michael, let's go, she said quickly, taking her son's hand. Why? It was nice here. Come on, let's go. But Michael had let go of his mother's hand and started running toward Richard. Michael, shouted Jennifer, running after her son. The boy stopped right in front of Richard and Mark, looking up curiously. Do you work in this big building? Asked Michael. Richard looked at the child and felt the world stop. Up close, he could see Michael had the same eyes as Jennifer did when she was little. Yes, I do. And you, what are you doing here? I'm playing with my mom. She said she's looking for someone. Richard looked up and saw Jennifer approaching, clearly nervous. Michael, come here, don't bother the man. Bother? It's no bother at all, said Richard, his voice almost breaking. Jennifer came near and stopped. Father and daughter stared at each other for the first time in 8 years. The recognition was immediate and painful. Dad? She whispered. Jennifer, he answered, his voice choked up. Michael looked from one to the other, confused. Do you know each other? Mark sensed the tension and discreetly stepped away. I need to go, said Jennifer, picking Michael up in her arms. Jennifer, wait. No, I can't, not now. She ran off with Michael in her arms, leaving Richard standing on the sidewalk, his heart shattered. Mommy, why are you crying? Who was that man? Michael asked as they waited for the bus. It was Grandpa Peter, sweetheart. Grandpa Peter is alive. He is. Then why don't we stay with him? Why are you sad? Jennifer didn't know how to answer. How do you explain to a 6-year-old a whole story of hurt and wounded pride? That night she put Michael to sleep and stayed in the small living room staring at the freshly painted walls. Everything made sense now. The money to come back home, the raises at the market, the promotions, the books at Michael's school. It had all been her father's doing. She felt torn between gratitude and anger. Gratitude that he had looked after them in silence. Anger that he hadn't had the courage to reveal himself. Richard also spent the night awake. Seeing Jennifer up close had brought back all the memories of the happy moments they had shared. The brave little girl who faced any challenge. The determined teenager who defended her opinions with passion. And now, the strong woman raising a child alone, despite all the difficulties. The next day, Richard was at the downtown bakery when Jennifer arrived with Michael. She stopped at the door when she saw him. Good morning, he said simply. Good morning, she replied, her voice almost inaudible. Michael looked from one to the other and let go of his mother's hand, walking up to Richard. Are you my grandpa? Richard crouched down to the boy's level. Yes, I am, Michael. Why did you never come visit us? The child's simple, direct question was like a knife to Richard's heart. It's complicated, Michael. Mummy always says you took very good care of her when she was little. Why did you stop taking care of her? Jennifer quickly approached. Michael, let's go to school, we're late. But I want to talk to Grandpa. Another day, sweetheart. Let's go. Richard stood there, watching her walk away with Michael, who waved sadly over his mother's shoulder. Anthony, who had witnessed everything, approached Richard. Are you really Jennifer's father? Richard confirmed with a nod. Why did you never show up here before? Because I'm a proud idiot who missed 8 years of my daughter's and my grandson's lives. And now what are you going to do? I don't know. She's still hurt. My friend, let me give you some advice from someone who has 5 children. Pride doesn't put food on the table, and it doesn't give hugs before bed. If you love them, you fight for them. Anthony's words stayed on Richard's mind all day. When he got home, he called Mark. I need your help to talk to Jennifer. What do you want to do? I don't know yet, but I can't just keep watching from a distance. Richard, can I make a suggestion? Of course. Stop trying to control everything. Go there and talk to her. Apologize. Explain how you feel. Stop trying to be the anonymous hero and be the father you should have been. The next morning, Richard didn't go to the downtown bakery. Instead, he waited for Jennifer to return from her cleaning job. When she got home, he was sitting on the porch steps. She stopped when she saw him, clearly surprised. What are you doing here? I want to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. Yes, we do, Jennifer. 8 years of things to talk about. 8 years? You had 8 years to look for me. I know, and I regret not doing it every single day. Jennifer climbed the steps, passing by him without looking. It's too late, Dad. For me, it's not. She stopped with the key in the lock. For me, it is. I needed you when Brian abandoned me. I needed you when Michael was sick and I had no money for a doctor. I needed you when I got evicted from 3 different houses. Where were you? I didn't know. Because you didn't want to know. She turned around, her eyes shining with tears and anger. You chose your pride over your own daughter. Jennifer, please. No, not now. She went into the house and slammed the door. Richard stood there for a few minutes listening to her footsteps inside. Then, slowly, he walked away. But the next day, he came back, and the day after too. He always sat on the steps and waited. Sometimes Jennifer wouldn't even open the door. Other times she'd leave through the back door to avoid him. Michael started noticing the tension. Mommy, why does Grandpa sit on our porch? Because he wants to talk to me. And why don't you talk? It's complicated, sweetheart. But you always teach me that talking is better than fighting. The simple wisdom of her son touched Jennifer. On a rainy Thursday, she finally opened the door when Richard arrived. Come in. It's raining. Richard entered the small house he had helped renovate without her knowing. Everything was simple but clean and organized. Michael's drawings decorated the walls, and there was a scent of coffee in the air. Would you like some coffee? She asked without looking at him. Yes. They sat at the small kitchen table. The silence was heavy, full of unspoken words. Why did you come back now? Jennifer finally asked. Because I can't live with remorse anymore. Remorse? She laughed bitterly. 8 years, Dad. Michael is 6 years old. You missed your grandson's birth, his first steps, his first words. I know, and that kills me every day. Then why didn't you look for me sooner? Richard took a deep breath. Because I'm proud and stupid. Because I thought you would come back apologizing. Because when I realized I was wrong, so much time had passed that I didn't know how to start over. Do you know Mom is gone? Richard nodded positively. I found out 2 years ago. That's when I decided to really look for you. 2 years? Where were you these 2 years? Looking for you, but you had moved several times, and whenever I got close to finding you, something scared me. Scared of what? That you wouldn't forgive me, that you were doing fine without me, that I had ruined everything forever. Jennifer took a sip of coffee and looked out the window. Do you know Brian abandoned me? Yes. And I know it was 5 years ago. How do you know? Because I've been trying to take care of you for a few weeks. So it was you, the house, the jobs, everything. It was. Why? Why didn't you come talk to me directly? Because I was afraid you'd send me away. At least by helping in secret, I could make sure you were okay. Jennifer got up from the table and went to the window. The rain beat hard against the glass. I looked for you, you know. Richard looked up, surprised. How? 2 years ago, when Michael got sick, I went to your company, but they said you had traveled abroad with no return date. I had indeed traveled. To Europe. I was trying to forget. Forget what? The pain of having lost you. They stayed silent for a few minutes, only the sound of rain filling the room. Jennifer, I was wrong, very wrong. I know I can't undo these 8 years, but I would like to try to rebuild our relationship. It's not just our relationship, Dad. Now there's Michael, too. I know. And I want to meet my grandson. I want to be present in his life if you'll let me. He asks about you sometimes, wants to know what the grandpa who took care of Mommy was like. And what do you tell him? The truth. That you were a good man who loved me very much, but made a wrong decision. Richard felt his eyes well up. And now, do you think you can give me a chance to get to know him? Jennifer turned from the window and looked at him. I can give you one chance. But trust, Dad. That's something you'll have to build again. I understand. And I want you to stop helping me in secret. If you're going to be in our lives, be real about it. I don't like lies. Agreed. At that moment, the door opened and Michael came running in, soaked from the rain. Mommy, class ended early because of the... He stopped when he saw Richard at the table. Grandpa? Hi, Michael, said Richard, his voice choked up. Michael looked at his mother, asking permission with his eyes. She nodded. Yes. The boy ran to Richard and threw himself into his arms. I knew you would show up. I always knew. Richard hugged his grandson for the first time, feeling all the love he had missed during those years. Michael smelled like a child, like dreams and hope. Are you going to stay with us now? Asked Michael, pulling back to look at his grandfather's face. If your mother allows it, I very much want to stay. Michael looked at Jennifer. Can he, Mommy? Please? He can, she replied, with a small but sincere smile. Richard felt he had found his way back home. In the following weeks, Richard began to be part of Michael's routine. He picked the boy up from school a few times a week and took him for ice cream or to walk in the square. Jennifer maintained a cautious cordiality, but gradually allowed him to participate more in their lives. Grandpa, are you rich? Michael asked one afternoon while they were having acai. Why do you want to know? Because your car is very nice. And your clothes too. Richard looked at his own clothes, expensive suit, leather shoes, Swiss watch. To Michael, that must have seemed like a completely different world. I do have money, Michael. But you know what I discovered? What? That money is good for nothing if you don't have people you love to share life's good things with. And now you have us. Now I have you if you want me. I do, and Mommy does too. She's just a little scared. Scared of what? That you'll leave again. His grandson's observation was spot on. Richard realized he needed to prove to Jennifer that he was there to stay. That weekend he showed up at their house with painting supplies. What's all this? Asked Jennifer. Michael told me he wanted a blue room like the sky. I thought we could paint it together. Dad, you don't have to. I want to, if you'll let me. Michael jumped for joy. Can he, Mommy? Please. He can. They spent Saturday painting Michael's room. Richard couldn't remember the last time he had done manual labor, but his grandson's joy made up for any discomfort. Grandpa, you paint really well, said Michael, with blue paint on his nose. I learned today by watching you, Richard laughed. Jennifer watched them from the doorway, an involuntary smile on her lips. It had been a long time since she had seen Michael so happy. At lunchtime, she made a simple but delicious stew. Richard ate it with more pleasure than any expensive meal he'd had in recent years. Mummy, can we have lunch together every day now? Asked Michael. Not every day, sweetheart. Grandpa works a lot. I do work, Richard agreed, but I can organize my schedule to have lunch with you on weekends if you want. We do, exclaimed Michael. Jennifer smiled shyly. I think that would be nice. The afternoon flew by. Richard helped Michael with a puzzle while Jennifer sewed some pieces to sell. It was a simple domestic scene, but Richard couldn't remember feeling so complete in a long time. When it was time to leave, Michael clung to his grandfather's leg. Can't you sleep here? No, Michael. I have my own house. But does your house have people in it? No, just me. So you're all alone, that's sad. Richard looked at Jennifer, who was watching the scene carefully. It is a little sad, he admitted. Mommy, can Grandpa sleep on the couch? Michael, Grandpa's house is big and comfortable. He'll be better off there. But I want him to stay close to us. Richard bent down and hugged his grandson. I'll come back tomorrow, okay? We can play again. Promise? I promise. That night, Richard returned to his empty mansion and felt the painful contrast. Everything there was luxurious, but lifeless. Jennifer's small house, even with its limitations, was full of love and laughter. He went up to the office and looked at the old photos of Jennifer. In one of them, she was 6 years old, the same age as Michael now, and smiled toothlessly, hugging him after an afternoon at the park. Richard picked up the phone and called Mark. I want to sell the company. What do you mean? I want to retire, live more simply, be close to my family. Richard, are you sure? The company is your life. No, Mark. My life is them. The company was always just a way to escape loneliness. And what do you want to do? I don't know yet. Maybe open something smaller. Something that allows me to have more free time. Are you serious? I've never been more serious in my life. On Sunday, Richard returned to Jennifer's house with a proposal. I want to take you all out. Michael told me he's never been to the zoo. Dad, you don't need to spend money. Jennifer, let me do this. For me. I need to make up for lost time. Michael burst with joy when he heard the plan. I'm going to see the lions and the monkeys and the elephants, and... At the zoo, Richard saw a side of Jennifer that hadn't appeared in a long time. She laughed at Michael's mischief, made different voices to imitate the animals, and played as if she were a child again. "Mommy, look! The monkey is imitating Grandpa!" shouted Michael, pointing to a monkey scratching its beard. Jennifer laughed loudly, and Richard felt his heart warm upon hearing that sound he hadn't heard in 8 years. During lunch at the zoo restaurant, Michael asked a question that left both adults silent. "Grandpa, why were you and Mommy mad at each other for so long?" Richard looked at Jennifer, asking permission to answer. "It's just, sometimes adults are too proud, Michael, and pride makes us make bad decisions. But you're not mad anymore, right?" "No," answered Jennifer. "We're not mad anymore." "That's good. Now we can be a real family." On the way back, Michael fell asleep in the back seat of Richard's car. Jennifer and her father finally had the conversation they needed. "Dad, I need you to understand something." "What?" "I'm not the girl who left home 8 years ago anymore. I've been through a lot. I've become stronger, but also more cautious. I can see that. And Michael is my absolute priority. Any decision I make will be thinking first of his well-being, as it should be. So if you want to be part of our life, it has to be for real. You can't just appear and disappear when you get tired. Jennifer, I want to be present. I want to help you not just with money, but by being here. Being the grandfather Michael deserves and the father you always deserve to have. And your work? Your company? I'm reorganizing everything. I want to have more time for what really matters." When they got home, Michael woke up and hugged them both. "It was the best day of my life," he declared. In the following months, Richard became a constant presence in Jennifer and Michael's life. He reorganized his company, promoting Mark to majority partner and taking on a more consultative position that gave him more flexible hours. He discovered Michael's tastes. The boy loved to draw and had a fertile imagination. Richard started taking him to museums and exhibitions, feeding his creativity. "Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to have a drawing company," said Michael one afternoon while drawing in Richard's office. "Drawings of what?" "Everything. Houses, cars, animals, happy people." Richard smiled. His grandson had the same determination Jennifer had shown as a child. Jennifer watched the relationship between father and son grow with mixed feelings. It was good to see Michael happy, but there was still a part of her that feared getting hurt again. One night, after putting Michael to sleep, she and Richard talked on the porch of the house. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why were you against Brian? Did you really think he was no good? Or was it just because you didn't like losing control?" Richard thought before answering. "Both. I saw signs that he wasn't reliable, but you were in love and didn't want to listen. And yes, I didn't like losing control. I've always been very protective of you." "Protective or controlling?" "Controlling. I know that now, and I regret it." "Brian really was no good," admitted Jennifer. "You were right about that. But the way you spoke..." "What exactly did I say? I don't remember everything." "You said I was naive, that I was throwing my life away, that if I left home I shouldn't ever come back." Richard closed his eyes, remembering that terrible day. "And I said that if you didn't support my decision, I'd rather not have a father at all." Those were words said in anger, Jennifer. "But they hurt. I was your only daughter, Dad, your blood, and you preferred to lose me than swallow your pride. I know, and I regret it every day. If I could go back, but you can't. We can only move forward." They watched the dark street, each lost in their thoughts. "Dad, can I say something?" "Of course. Even with all the hurt, I always missed you, especially when Michael was born. I wanted you to meet your grandson. I wanted to share the joy with you. And why didn't you look for me? pride. I'm proud too. Family inheritance. She smiled sadly. And when Brian left? Then, I wanted to look for you out of desperation, but I didn't want you to think I only came back because I was in need. Jennifer, you are my daughter. I would always help you, no matter the circumstances. I know that now. But back then, hurt and abandoned, I couldn't think straight. Richard reached out and touched his daughter's hand. Shall we try again? The three of us together? Jennifer squeezed her father's hand. Let's try. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The following months were of gradual rebuilding. Richard started having lunch with them every Saturday and Sunday. He sometimes took Michael to the company, showing him how the business world worked. The boy asked 1,000 questions, and Richard answered with endless patience. Grandpa, why didn't you live in a smaller house like ours? Asked Michael during a visit to the office. Because I thought a big house was important, but I discovered that a good house is a house with love inside. Our house is small, but has lots of love, right? Lots of love. The happiest house I know. Jennifer began to trust her father more as she saw his consistent dedication to Michael. He never missed the commitments he made and always showed genuine interest in his grandson's life. One afternoon, Richard arrived at their house with a different proposal. Jennifer, I want to ask you a question, but I want you to be completely honest. What is it? Are you happy working 3 jobs? Happy? She laughed. Dad, happiness is a luxury I can't afford. I need to work to support Michael. What if you had a better option? What kind of option? Mark needs an administrative assistant at the company. Business hours, good salary, benefits. You'd have time to pick Michael up from school and be present in his life. Jennifer was suspicious. Did you get this job for me? Mark really needs someone. But yes, I suggested your name. Dad, I don't want to be supported by you. And it won't be. It would be a real job with real responsibilities. Mark has known me for 20 years. He wouldn't hire you just to do me a favor if he didn't believe you were capable. But I don't have any office experience. You're smart, organized, and a hard worker. Experience can be learned. Jennifer thought for a few days before making her decision. The offer was tempting, but she didn't want to owe her father anything. All right, she said on a Thursday, but on one condition. What? If I'm not good at the job, Mark fires me normally. No favors because I'm your daughter. Agreed. The following week, Jennifer started at the company. Mark greeted her with professional courtesy, explaining her duties, organizing his schedule, attending to clients, handling basic documentation. Richard spoke very highly of you, said Mark, but here you'll be evaluated on your performance, not on being his daughter. That's exactly how I want it. Jennifer adapted quickly to the work. She discovered she had a knack for organization and customer service. Within 2 weeks, Mark was already impressed with her efficiency. Richard, your daughter is excellent. It's not favoritism. It's genuine competence. I imagine so. She's always been determined. And very professional. She doesn't mix personal matters with work. Indeed, at the office, Jennifer treated Richard like any other client or business partner. But little by little, the relationship between them began to warm up. Michael was loving the new routine. Jennifer picked him up from school every day right on time. They had time to play at home, and on weekends they went on outings with Richard. Mommy, now you're not so tired anymore, Michael observed one afternoon. It's true, this is much better. And you smile more too. Jennifer realized it was true. For the first time in years, she felt she had control over her life. She wasn't just surviving, she was living. Richard began to share with her some decisions about Michael, which school would be better for the next year, whether the boy could start drawing lessons, little things that parents discuss naturally. Dad, can I say something? Said Jennifer one Sunday afternoon. Of course, thank you. For what? For coming back, for insisting even when I was being difficult, for trying to be the grandpa that Michael deserves. Jennifer, I should be the one thanking you. You two saved me. How so? I was empty, my dear. Rich, but empty. The company was all I had, and even that didn't make me happy. When I found you two again, I understood what was missing. And now? Now I have a reason to wake up every day. I have you. Michael came running from the living room. Grandpa, come see my new drawing. It was a drawing of the family. 3 people holding hands in front of a small house, with flowers in the garden and a giant yellow sun in the sky. That's the 3 of us, explained Michael proudly. Richard looked at the drawing and felt his eyes fill with tears. It's the most beautiful drawing I've ever seen, Michael. Really? Really? A few months later, Richard made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He put the mansion up for sale and bought a simple house on the same street where Jennifer lived. Dad, what are you doing? She asked when he told her the news. Buying a house near you. But why? Your house is beautiful. My house is empty, Jennifer. I want to live near my grandson. I want to be able to have dinner with you whenever you want. I want to be here when Michael needs help with his homework. Michael was thrilled with the news. Grandpa is going to live on our street? Yes, I am. So can I visit you every day? Every day your mother allows. Jennifer was moved but tried to hide it. Dad, are you sure you won't regret it? It's very different from your current life. It is different, yes, it's better. Richard's move caused a stir in the neighborhood. The neighbors found it odd when a well-dressed man started showing up around there, but they soon realized he was Michael's grandfather and Jennifer's father. Ms. Grace was the first to approach him. So you're Jennifer's father. It's about time you showed up. You're right, Ms. Grace, I took far too long. What matters is that you're here now. That girl has had it far too rough these past years. I know, and I'll do everything I can to make it up to her. The boy is so happy. He won't stop telling everyone about his grandpa. Richard quickly became part of the community. He discovered that many families there were going through struggles similar to what Jennifer had faced. Using his business experience, he began helping his neighbors in practical ways. He organized a co-op so residents could buy food in bulk and at better prices. He helped some young people put together resumes and prepare for job interviews. He used his connections to find work opportunities for those who were unemployed. Dad, what are you doing? Jennifer asked one night, seeing him come home late from a meeting with the neighbors. Helping some folks out. How? Using what I know about business to solve practical problems. Mr. John from the market was almost bankrupt. I helped him renegotiate with his suppliers and get his accounts in order. Now he's managing to stay afloat. And Miss Kathleen? I got her a job as a seamstress at a clothing factory. The pay is 3 times what she made doing alterations at home. Jennifer realized her father was finding a new purpose in life, very different from the frantic pursuit of money that had driven him before. Are you happy here, Dad? Happier than I've been in years. Even though you're making less money. Sweetheart, I've already made enough money for 3 lifetimes. Now I want to make moments. Moments. Moments with you. Watching Michael grow up. Talking with you. Getting to know our neighbors. Making a difference in the lives of real people. Richard's transformation amazed Jennifer. The ambitious, distant man she remembered was becoming someone present, caring, and involved in the community. Michael blossomed with his grandfather's attention. His grades at school improved, and he became more confident and happy. His teacher mentioned the positive change to Jennifer. Have you done anything different at home? Michael is so much more engaged in class. No. He's just spending more time with his grandfather. Oh, that's wonderful. Having family around makes all the difference in a child's life. One afternoon, Michael asked a question that moved Richard deeply. Grandpa, will you teach me how to drive when I grow up? Of course, Michael. I'll teach you anything you want to learn. And will you be here when I graduate from school? I'll be here for everything, my grandson. For your graduation, your first job, your wedding, your children, for everything. Michael hugged his grandfather tightly. That's good. I was afraid you would leave like Daddy Brian did. Richard looked at Jennifer, who was watching the scene with tears in her eyes. Michael, I am never leaving again. I promise. A real promise? A real promise. As time went on, Richard noticed that Jennifer was truly beginning to forgive him. She didn't just tolerate his presence, but she genuinely seemed happy when he came over for Sunday lunches or to pick Michael up from school. One Friday night, she invited him over for dinner. "It's just a simple dinner," she said, "but Michael wants to show you a school project. I would love to have dinner with you." The dinner was intimate and warm. Michael presented a photo album he had put together at school about my family. It had drawings, photos Jennifer had given him, and a 2-page essay about how great it is to have a grandpa. "Read it out loud, Grandpa," Michael asked. Richard read the essay, his voice breaking in some parts. "My grandpa's name is Richard, and he's the best grandpa in the world. He didn't live with us before because grown-ups sometimes do wrong things when they're angry, but now he's back and our family is complete. He teaches me things about drawing and about how to be a good person. My mum gets happier when he's around. I think love is stronger than anger, and I love my grandpa." When he finished reading, Richard couldn't speak. Jennifer was also emotional. "Did you help him write this?" asked Richard. "No, it was all his idea," replied Jennifer. "Did you like it?" asked Michael eagerly. "It was the most beautiful text I've ever heard in my life," said Richard, hugging his grandson. After Michael went to sleep, Richard and Jennifer stayed up talking late in the living room. It was the first time in 8 years they'd had a truly deep conversation without resentment. "Dad, can I make a confession?" "Of course." "When I was a teenager, I dreamed of working with you at the company." Richard was surprised. "Really? You never told me that." "Because you always said business wasn't a place for women, that I had to marry well and be supported by my husband." "I actually said that?" "Yes, several times." Richard ran his hand through his hair, remembering how conservative and traditional he was back then. "Jennifer, I was a sexist idiot. I thought I was protecting you, but I was limiting you. And I rebelled against that. That's why I fell for the first man who told me I could be independent. Brian said that. He did. Of course it was a lie, but I wanted so badly to believe I could choose my own path. And you can, you always could. I know that now, but it took me a while to learn." Richard looked at his daughter with admiration. "You know what I'm proudest of?" "What?" "How you raised Michael alone. How you became a strong, independent woman despite all the difficulties. You proved you didn't need me or anyone else to be happy. But I do need you, Dad. Michael needs you, not to support us, but to be present. And I will be, for the rest of my life." 1 year after that first afternoon at the zoo, the family had found a new balance. Richard had sold his company to Mark, keeping only a stake as a consultant. This gave him the time and freedom to be present in Jennifer and Michael's lives. He had become a well-known and respected figure in the neighborhood. Children greeted him on the street, shopkeepers talked with him about business, mothers asked for advice about raising children. "Mr. Thompson is different," commented Ms. Grace to Jennifer. "He seems happier." "It's true, he is. And you, are you happy too?" Jennifer thought before answering. "I am. For the first time in a long time, I'm truly happy." Michael had become the center of attention at school. His essays about family always moved his teachers, and his drawings showed a secure and loved child. "Miss Kathleen, can I tell you something?" Michael said to his teacher one day. "Of course, Michael. My family was broken, but now it's fixed." "How so?" "It was just me and Mommy. Now Grandpa's here too. And when the pieces come together, it gets stronger, right?" The teacher smiled, touched by the child's wisdom. "That's true, Michael. When the pieces come together, it gets much stronger." That weekend, Richard proposed something special. "How about we go traveling, the 3 of us together?" "Where to?" asked Jennifer. "To the beach. Michael has never seen the ocean, right?" The boy jumped with excitement. "The ocean? Really, Grandpa? I'm going to see the ocean." "Yes, you are. A whole week at the beach." "Dad, that must be very expensive." "Jennifer, let me do this. For me. For us." The trip to the beach was magical. Michael ran on the sand as if he had discovered a new world. Jennifer relaxed in a way Richard Thompson hadn't seen in years. They built sandcastles, played in the water, walked along the beach at sunset. "Grandpa, is the ocean as big as your love for us?" asked Michael one afternoon. "It's even bigger," replied Richard. On the last night of the trip, when Michael was already asleep, Richard and Jennifer walked along the beach. "Dad, thank you for this week. Thank you for letting me be part of your lives again. You know what I've realized these months?" "What?" "That forgiving isn't forgetting what happened. It's choosing not to let the past ruin the present." That's a beautiful definition. Michael taught me that. Children forgive easily because they want to play, they want to be happy. We complicate everything with pride and hurt feelings. That's true. And I want you to know that I've forgiven you, truly. Richard stopped walking and hugged his daughter. "I love you, Jennifer. I've always loved you, even when I was away." "I love you too, Dad." It was the first truly affectionate hug they had shared in 8 years. When they returned from the trip, they found the neighborhood celebrating. Miss Grace had organized a surprise party to celebrate the return of the Thompson family. "I can't believe you did this," exclaimed Jennifer, seeing the decorations on the street. "It was Miss Grace's idea," explained Anthony. "She said a family that reunites deserves a celebration." Michael ran to greet all the neighbors, telling them about the trip and showing off the seashells he had collected. "Grandpa, look how many people like us," he said to Richard. "It's true, we're very lucky. And now we'll never be apart again, right?" "Never again." The party lasted until late at night. Richard talked with all the neighbors, heard stories about the neighborhood, made new friends. He realized how much time he had wasted isolating himself in his cold mansion. At the end of the evening, when everyone had left, the three of them stayed on Jennifer's porch, watching the stars. "Dad, can I ask you something?" said Jennifer. "Always." "Do you regret selling the company?" "Never. Best decision I ever made in my life." "Even though you earn less?" "Jennifer, I have enough money saved for the three of us to live comfortably for the rest of our lives. We don't need anything more than that." "The three of us? If you want, of course. I'm not trying to buy your forgiveness. I just want you to know you'll never be in need again." Michael had fallen asleep on his grandfather's lap. Richard carried him inside and put him to bed, tucking him in tenderly. "He's a heavy sleeper like you were when you were little," commented Richard, returning to the living room. "I remember you putting me to sleep. You always told a different story. You wanted to hear the same story 1,000 times, the one about the princess who planted magic flowers." "I loved that story," Jennifer smiled. "Sometimes I tell it to Michael." "And does he like it?" "He loves it. But I changed the ending." "How so?" "In your version, the princess lived happily ever after alone with her flowers. In my version, she finds a family that truly loves her." Richard understood the metaphor and smiled. "I like your version better." "Me too." 6 months later, Richard was already a central figure in the community. He had organized a community garden where families grew vegetables and shared the harvest. Michael had his own row of cherry tomatoes, which he tended with dedication. "Grandpa, why do you do so many things to help people?" asked Michael one afternoon as they watered the plants. "Because I've discovered that helping others makes me happy. Happier than having lots of money. Much happier. Mom always says the best things in life don't cost money. Your mother is very wise. And you are too. That's why you make a good family." Richard smiled. In Michael's simple view, everything made sense. Jennifer had grown a lot professionally. Mark had promoted her to administrative coordinator, recognizing her capability and dedication. She now earned more than she had ever dreamed and had flexible hours that allowed her to be present for Michael. "Jen, I have a proposal for you," said Mark one afternoon. "What kind of proposal?" "Richard is thinking about opening a small consulting firm to help small businesses in the region. He wants you to be his partner." "How so?" "You would handle the administrative part and client relationships. He would handle the technical part. It would be a company for the two of you." Jennifer was surprised. "He didn't tell me anything." "Because he was waiting for me to talk to you first. Do you want to know what I think?" "I do. You would work well together. You're organized and good with people. He has experience and connections. And it would be a way for you to spend more time together, building something. And what if it goes wrong? If we argue at work?" "Jennifer, you've already been through the biggest fight possible and managed to reconcile. A work disagreement won't destroy what you've rebuilt." That night, Jennifer talked to Michael about the proposal. "What do you think, my love? About Mommy working with Grandpa?" "I think it would be cool. Then you can be together more, and I can visit the office all the time. Aren't you afraid we might argue?" "No, you love each other. People who love each other can get mad sometimes, but they always make up afterward." The simplicity of Michael's logic convinced Jennifer. The next day, she sought out Richard. "Did Mark talk to you about the consulting firm?" "He did. What did you think?" "I think it could work, but with a few conditions." "Which ones?" "First, we're real partners. Important decisions are made together. Second, if it doesn't work out, we keep business separate from family. And third, Michael remains my priority." "I agree with everything. Then let's give it a try." Thompson and Daughter Consulting started small, serving local merchants and small business owners in the area. Richard used his experience to identify problems, and Jennifer used her people skills to implement the solutions. The first client was Mr. John from the market, who needed to modernize his management. Within 3 months, they managed to increase his revenue by 40%. "You two are quite the team," said Mr. John. "Richard has the ideas, and Jennifer makes them work in practice." Michael started frequenting the small office they set up in the downtown area. He became friends with all the clients and always had a new drawing to show. "Aunt Anna, look at my drawing of your diner," he showed one of the clients. "How beautiful, Michael. You draw so well." "It's because Grandpa teaches me. He says drawing is a way to keep the happy moments." The company grew quickly. Within a year, they already had 15 regular clients and a waiting list. Richard discovered that he much preferred helping small businesses than running a large company. "You know what the difference is?" he said to Jennifer one afternoon. "What?" "Here we know the people. We know their stories, their dreams, their struggles. At the big company, they were just numbers." "And you prefer it this way?" "I much prefer it." Jennifer was also professionally fulfilled. She discovered she had a knack for business and a sharp intuition for understanding clients' needs. "Dad, thank you," she said one evening. "For what?" "For giving me the chance to discover that I'm capable, for trusting me as a partner." "Jennifer, you were always capable. I was just slow to see it." "And Michael, what do you think of him?" "I think he's the smartest and most caring boy I've ever known, and he's going to be an amazing man." "He loves you very much." "I love him too, and I love you." "I know, Dad, and I feel the same." 2 years after the reunion in the square, Richard, Jennifer, and Michael had become a solid and happy family. The company was thriving, Michael was growing into a confident and beloved boy, and the relationship between father and daughter was stronger than ever. One Sunday morning, Michael made an announcement during breakfast. "I have an idea." "What is it?" asked Richard and Jennifer in unison. "Let's throw a party to celebrate that we're a family again." "What kind of party?" asked Jennifer. "A big party, with all the neighbors, all the company's clients, all my school friends." "Michael, that would be a huge party," laughed Richard. "So let's do it. Grandpa has money, Mom organizes everything really well, and I can help with the decoration drawings." Jennifer and Richard looked at each other and laughed. "Do you agree?" asked Richard. "I think Michael is right. We have a lot to celebrate." The Thompson family party became the talk of the whole neighborhood. Richard hired an event company, but Jennifer insisted on personally cooking many dishes with the help of the neighbors. Michael created personalized invitations, drawing each one by hand. On the back he wrote, "You are invited to our family's party for finding our way back to each other." The day of the party was perfect. Over 100 people showed up, neighbors, consulting clients, Jennifer's co-workers, Michael's school friends, employees from Richard's old company. Mark gave an emotional speech. "I've known Richard for 20 years. I've never seen him as happy as he is now." Jennifer and Michael gave him back something money could never buy, a real purpose for living. Michael climbed on a chair to give his own speech. "I want to thank everyone who is here. You are all part of our big family. And I want to thank my grandpa for coming back and my mum for forgiving him. Now we're happy forever." Everyone applauded, many with tears in their eyes. During the party, Richard watched Jennifer talking with people, laughing, having fun. She was the woman he always knew she could be, strong, caring, fulfilled. "Richard," said Miss Grace, approaching him, "you have reason to be proud." "I sure do. Your daughter is a special woman, and your grandson is a golden boy. I know. They are the most precious treasure I have. And do they know you feel that way?" "I hope so." "Then you did the right thing by coming back." At the end of the party, when everyone had left and Michael was already asleep, Richard and Jennifer sat on the porch, tired but happy. "It was a beautiful party," she said. "It was. Michael had a brilliant idea. He really is special, just like his mother." They sat in silence, watching the quiet street. It was a warm summer night with many stars in the sky. "Dad, can I ask you a question?" "Always." "Are you really happy here? Don't you miss the life you had before?" Richard thought for a moment. "Do you know the difference between the life I had and the life I have now?" "What?" "Before, I had success. Now, I have happiness. And I've discovered they are completely different things." "And you don't miss anything?" "What would I miss? Coming home to an empty house? Eating dinner alone? Having no one to share joys with?" "When you put it that way, Jennifer, these 2 years have been the best of my life. Watching Michael grow, working with you, being part of this community. I found myself here. And I found myself again too. For the last few years, I was just surviving. Now I'm living. We found our way back to each other." The next morning, Michael woke up early and ran to his grandfather's house. "Grandpa, Grandpa, are you awake?" Richard opened the door, smiling. "Yes, I'm awake. What is it, champ?" "Can I have breakfast with you? Mom said it's okay." "Of course, let's make a special breakfast." Together they made griddled toast, scrambled eggs, and orange juice. Michael chatted about the previous day's party while helping set the table. "Grandpa, yesterday was the happiest day of my life. Why? Because everyone could see that we're a real family." "And before we weren't a real family," Michael thought seriously. "We were. But it was a secret family. Now it's a family that everyone knows exists." Richard laughed at his grandson's logic. "You're very clever, Michael. Mommy always says that. She says I take after you." And she's right. Jennifer appeared at the kitchen door. "Can I join your breakfast for 2?" "Of course," said Michael. "Sit here next to me." The three had breakfast together, talking about plans for the week. Richard had a meeting with 2 new clients. Jennifer was going to present a proposal for Anthony's downtown bakery, which wanted to expand the business. Michael was going to present a school project about family. "Are you going to talk about us in the project?" asked Richard. "I will. About how families can get lost, but can also find each other again." "And what will the conclusion be?" "That love always wins over pride. But sometimes it takes a little while." Richard and Jennifer looked at each other and smiled. "Michael, you're going to be a philosopher when you grow up," said Jennifer. "No, I'm going to be a businessman like Grandpa, but I'll be a businessman who draws and stays close to the family." "That's an excellent idea," agreed Richard. 3 years after the reunion, the Thompson family's life had found its perfect rhythm. Richard had definitively sold all his luxury possessions and now lived simply but fully. The consulting firm served over 40 small businesses in the region and had become a reference in management for small business owners. Michael, now 9 years old, continued to be the family's pride. His grades were excellent, his drawings kept improving, and he had become a sort of mascot for the consulting firm, always present in meetings with creative ideas. "Michael, what do you want to be when you grow up?" asked a client one afternoon. "I want to have a design company, to draw beautiful things that make people happy." "And will you work with your grandfather?" "I will. We're going to have the coolest company in the United States." Richard felt emotional, hearing his grandson talk about the future with such conviction. That night, after Michael fell asleep, Richard and Jennifer walked through the neighborhood street, as they had grown accustomed to doing every Friday. "Dad, want to know something?" "I do. I'm happy, truly. Me too." "Know why?" Why? Because we managed to turn a sad story into a beautiful story. That's true. And Michael will grow up knowing that family is about being present, about forgiving, about starting over as many times as needed. That's the greatest gift we can give him. They stopped in front of the house where everything had begun, where Richard had seen Jennifer being evicted that afternoon that changed their lives forever. Dad, do you remember what you thought when you first saw me here? I remember. I thought I had lost you forever, that it was too late to fix our mistakes. And I remember what I felt when I recognized you in the square. What did you feel? Anger, but also relief. Part of me always hoped you'd come back. And now I know some stories take a while to reach the happy ending, but when they do, they're worth all the waiting. Richard hugged his daughter there on the street, under the yellow streetlight. It was the same place where she had cried in despair years before. Now it was the place where they celebrated their rebuilt family. Dad? Yes? Thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for giving me a second chance. We deserved this chance. We sure did. When they got home, they found Michael awake, watching through the window. Why aren't you sleeping, my love? Asked Jennifer. I was waiting for you to come back. I wanted to make sure you were together. We'll always come back together, Michael, assured Richard. Always? Always. Michael smiled contentedly and went to bed. Richard stayed a few more minutes, helping Jennifer tidy up the house. Dad, can I say one last thing today? Of course. I've completely forgiven you. You know that, right? I know. And it means everything to me. And you? Have you forgiven yourself? Richard stopped putting away Michael's toys. I'm learning. Every day, seeing you all happy, I forgive myself a little more. It really is a process. Yes, but it's a process worth going through. End of story. And you? What did you think of this story about new beginnings and second chances? Tell us in the comments if you've ever experienced a similar situation in your family. Sometimes pride makes us lose important people, but it's never too late to acknowledge mistakes and fight for the love that truly matters. Leave your like if the story touched your heart and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories like this one.